It's someone that was at the surprise, rather hastily assembled press conference to reveal Robert Jenrick as a new Reform UK MP was Kate Ferguson, who is the Sun on Sunday's political editor. Hi, Kate. Well, there was going to be a press conference. It wasn't going to be about this star signing, was it?
Yeah, so we turned up at about 4:30 in Millbank to a press conference by Nigel Farage. He said, well, I was going to host this press conference about a judicial review into the cancellation of local elections. And obviously an important topic, an exciting topic in its way, but we ended up having a much more exciting press conference as they unveiled the thing that we had all been talking about all day and really for months before that, which was the big defection of Robert Jenrick to Reform UK.
Well, indeed so. Who were the clear winners yesterday, would you say? Because look at the key characters. You've got the leader of the Conservatives, Kemi Badenoch, who acted swiftly. She tried to spoil the party by firing him early in the morning. You've got Farage, who's now welcomed a Tory big hitter into the fold. You've got Robert Jenrick, whose political career appears now to be in the ascendancy. Or you could argue you've got Sir Keir Starmer, who's quite happy to see the right divided.
Yeah, I don't want to not give you an answer to a straight answer to a straight question, but the answer is a bit more complicated. So let's take them in turn. Kemi Badenoch was the one that stole those headlines in the morning, finding out about this plot that Robert was going to defect. We discovered that she found out about it just the day before, it looks like in the evening, and by morning she'd made her decision, dispatched him brutally, getting her chief whip to phone him up and fire him down the phone. So Kemi was a winner in terms of her own MPs, shadow cabinet certainly. They all thought she acted powerfully. There were comparisons to Thatcher, there always are in the Tory party, isn't there? But this idea that at last, after years of kind of dithering, dallying, prevaricating, the Conservative Party finally has a kind of a decisive leader who's willing to make tough decisions. So in some ways, it helped her yesterday. But look, let's temper that by the fact that Robert Jenrick is a huge political beast, the most popular member of the shadow cabinet, and she has lost him. So I think we're going to have to see how it comes out in the wash for her. Are members going to follow him out the door? Are activists going to follow him out the door? And will this really put kind of rocket boosters under Reform UK, who've slipped a bit in the polls, but are nonetheless, you know, that big insurgent party waiting in the wings to take over number 10. Very quickly, I saw some people from number 10 yesterday. You know, I think they're happy that we're talking about the psychodrama of the Tory party again. They're pretty relaxed about that. But obviously the PM had some good news yesterday on the domestic front, and that did get a bit blown out of the water by this saga.
Most definitely. And you mentioned that slight slip in the polls on the part of Reform UK. Some suggested that perhaps they peaked towards the end of last year, but the big mo is now back with them again as a result of yesterday's drama.
The momentum, did you say?
Yeah, that's what the Americans call it, isn't it? The big mo.
Sorry.
You'll have to forgive me for using a load of nonsense jargon.
To me, Big Mo is a character in EastEnders. But anyway, yes, exactly. Look, I mean, we can be too clever by half about this, but I think that it's true, isn't it, that Reform UK have burst onto the political scene and they've hoovered up a lot of support by people being very fed up with the other guy, be that Labour, be that Tories. Now Nigel Farage is facing the true work of opposition, the really tricky bit. Number one, how many defectors does he take in? So he's taken in Robert Jenrick this week and other Tory defectors like Nadine Zahawi earlier in the week. Is he just going to look like washed up Tory Party 2.0? He needs to be careful that his faces feel and look fresh enough and are all sort of on the same page, that he's not going to get kind of bring two big rivals into his tent, which might be a bit problematic. He also really, I would urge him, really needs to focus on some policy work. I think if there is one lesson we've learned from Labour's shambolic first 18 months in power, is that they weren't ready to, they didn't really know what they wanted to do with power once they had it. It was all about winning the election. There was no what comes next. And I really hope that any political party hoping to win the next election is more prepared, because it's crucial for this country and actually long-term for their own support base among voters. But yes, we're back all talking about Reform UK. All the Tories are going to be watching the polls intently over the next few days, weeks, months. Is Robert Jenrick the kind of defection that could move the polls and help immediately boost Reform UK? Or is he not a poll mover in the short term, but maybe just going to beef up their front bench team?
Now, Kate, we don't know who the defection will be from Labour on Tuesday of next week. It's my humble view that unless it's a sitting Labour MP, it's a bit of a nothing burger. But that's just my personal view. We don't know who that's going to be. But what about other potential scalps, Tory scalps that Farage could claim? Are we looking at IDS, David Davis or Suella Braverman to cross the floor next?
Nigel Farage, interestingly, set this sort of deadline yesterday at the press conference. He said, look, if you want to defect to us, come and do it before May 7th, the local elections. So I'm wondering if we're going to see more defections flushed out over the next few weeks and months. I think the number one on everyone's watch list will be Suella Braverman. Clearly, her politics very aligned with Nigel, very close to Robert Jenrick. But she has... and really quite adrift from her party. You know, we don't see her out much in the Conservative Party. She's not close to this leadership. So I would suspect quite kind of emotionally adrift from Kemi and co. But she hasn't gone over yet. You know, the big question there is personalities. Does she want to go and throw her all in with Nigel, Tice and those lot? Is there something holding her back personally or not politically? So I think she must be number one on the watch list. I've had Lord Frost, who former Brexit negotiator, Tory peer, who I think is no longer sitting as a Tory now, sitting as an independent.
Correct, yeah.
I thought he was going to throw his all in with them long ago, to be honest. I would be very surprised if he doesn't eventually go.
Well, that's interesting, Kate. Look forward to catching up really soon. Kate Ferguson is the political editor of The Sun on Sunday.